What's up, poker people? My name is Wes, and this is my poker vlog. Today I'm playing a 5-5 no-limit cash game session at Texas Card House in Houston, Texas. I'm going to buy into the game for $3,000. Wish me luck. All right, a new cash game session of 5-5 no-limit hold'em with no max in the buy-ins. This hand started with an under-the-gun limp. There was a straddle of 10 and a limp, and I look down at Queen 10 suited, and I don't limp, so I make it 50 to go, and I get immediately called on my left. And Todd in the big blind's gonna call. The straddler is gonna call as well, and then the guy who limped, getting all these odds, is gonna fold, which is just another example of don't limp if your hand's not good enough to raise. And I flop a gut shot and a flush draw with a gut shot straight flush draw. So I'm definitely c-betting this. There's 215 in the pot, and I make it 125. No reason to bet too big. Kind of want someone to call, but I'm also hoping I hit one of my draws if they do. It's folding around to the under the gun straddler, and he calls 125. Going to the turn, and I have the nuts now. It's a good turn card. I have Broadway. I also have my redraw, flush redraw, and straight flush redraw. He checks. I'm gonna bet a little bit bigger now, $300. Hoping he has an ace, maybe a hand like ace jack, the turn 2 pair. He thinks about it. He makes the call. The river's the 8 of diamonds, basically a brick. I don't think he's gonna have a huge hand here a lot, so my bet's gonna be more of a value size bet. But the thing is, he only has 650 left in his stack. On the turn, he called off a third of his stack, so maybe he feels pot committed and he'll just call the rest off. So I put him all in for $650. He counts down his stack and decides he is committed to this pot. I've got the nuts, buddy. It's a good start to the night. I would have bet a little bit smaller if he had a bigger stack, actually, which is kind of funny. I would have bet maybe 500 or 550 just to get a crying call from an ace. But once I realized he didn't have much more than that, I just put them all in, and it worked out. In the middle of a hand, Albert decided to get up and go add on $10,000 to his stack. Those are $500 pink chips. A stack of those is 10K. This game was live streamed, and you're now about to hear me argue with the chat. Give me a pink chip right now.
Pink chimp. Give him a pink chimp.
Pink chimp.
You don't want to be left out?
No, they don't believe this is $500. What does that say? What does that say?
Right. Yeah.
It's on both sides. It says $500.
I didn't mean to
What's
ask.
500 times 20? That's $10,000. He has $10,000 in his front stack.
Is that a bind? Did you bust somebody out? I mean,
He's angry. He
what's going on
was
here?
angry.
I'm trying to get Wes to buy him some more.
Well,
I looked at the table. I'm like, all right, well, let me, you know.
I honestly, no, I have money in my pocket.
I'm just with you.
Mine is like based on my mood, like it's just like what mood I'm in. I'm in the mood to raise ace jack suited in this hand to $50. It's gonna fold around to Todd again in the big blind. He's gonna call. And the limper calls. Going 3 ways to this flop with ace jack of spades. That's a really good flop. A jack and 2 spades. Jack 8-4. I'm gonna bet this flop, but I'm gonna bet only 100. 1 black chip. That's easy to call. Todd's checking his cards before he makes a move, and he calls. And the limper calls too. We're going 3 ways to the turn. It's not a spade, it's a 3 of hearts. Todd checks. And now the guy that limped in pre-flop, he's actually gonna lead into me for $400. Well, that's an okay bet size, so I guess I'm just gonna call. I don't see any reason to raise. Just have a jack, haven't hit my flush yet. And I call $400, and Todd goes all in for $1,100. He springs the trap, and I call with top pair and a flush draw. Oh, he's got a set of 4s. I'm gonna need a spade. No, it's an ace. Top 2's not good enough. Todd's gonna win the 3K pot with a set of 4s. We're gonna watch a hand now that Albert on the top left plays against a player on my right. There was a raise pre-flop. Albert checks. Pre-flop raiser bets 200 on the flop. Albert's gonna call. On the turns, 4 spades. and the guy on my right bets $1,000. This slows Albert down, and he's thinking about it for a bit. The board is Jack 994, 2 clubs on the flop. Albert calls 1,000. The river's a 7 of diamonds, and the guy bets $2,500. Albert goes in the tank for a bit, but eventually he calls, and the bettor shows pocket eights, and Albert shows queen jack for top pair. Very optimistic bet by pocket eights. I straddled 10 under the gun, and the player on my left re-straddled to 20. It folded all the way around to us, and I looked down at ace queen suited and raised it up to $85. The player on my left re-raises to $250. Now he's a very competent player. I think he can be doing this with some bluff type hands, raising me with a hand he doesn't really want to call down 3 streets with. So I'm going to go ahead and 4-bet him, probably take it down pre-flop. I decide to make it $685. I re-raise to $685. Calling is okay here too. I would do that probably against opponents that I want them to make a bunch of mistakes. I don't know how many mistakes this player is going to make, and he goes all in for $2,050. And this is where I realized the problem. I didn't realize he only had $2,000. I actually thought he was way deeper, 4 or 5K. I've actually put myself in a really weird spot now because I don't think ace queen plays very good against his all-in range. I think he can have some pairs and ace king, and that's about it. Now I've basically turned ace queen into a bluff. I'm just gonna let this one go. He ended up telling me he had kings in that spot, and I guess I believe him. We're gonna watch another hand between Albert and the guy who I'm now calling Optimist Prime. They get to a king 6-4 flop. Albert's leading the action and Optimist calls. The turn's a 5. It's a rainbow board. Albert's going to tank and make another bet. Now Optimist has to make a decision, and he calls. The river's the ace of hearts. It's on to Albert. And now he overbets the pot for $550. And now Optimist raises to $2,000. Albert goes all in and he calls, and they have the same hand. Oh my God, that's so stupid. And here's an update of my stack. Looks like I have just under $4,000. If you've never seen the live stream from Saturday nights, this is the camera angle I use. You can see the action going around the table. I've got a $10 straddle. There's a limper. Albert's gonna make it $55. It's gonna fold all the way around to me, and I look down at ace 4 suited. I'm gonna call. And the limper's gonna call. We're gonna go 3 ways to the flop. The flop is 7-5-3, the 7-3 of diamonds and the 5 of hearts. I flop a double gutter with a backdoor flush draw. I check and it checks over to Albert. He's gonna c-bet $100. I decide this is a spot I want to check raise. I make it $350 to go. The other player gets out of the way. And Albert makes the call. We're gonna need to hit something on this turn. The turn's the 7 of hearts. Gives us a flush draw, but pairs the board. Gonna have to keep my foot on the pedal. Question is, what is the sizing to make here? The pot is $875. Gonna go a little bit big. And I bet $625. This puts pressure on Albert if he just has a hand like ace king that isn't diamonds, for example. Well, he calls. I'm gonna have to improve on this river. Oh, come on. The river's the queen of clubs. This helps me in no way. If I want to win this $2,000 pot that I built, my only chance is bluffing at it, and I go all in for $2,800. And the good news is he didn't snap call, but honestly, I thought he was gonna snap fold something like ace king, and now I realize he's got a pair. Maybe he'll fold 10s or jacks in this spot. He's been thinking about this for over a minute now. I guess that means it's a good bluff if he's thinking this long with a pair. But honestly, in my head at this point, the fact that he hadn't folded yet, I just thought he was going to call and I was going to lose this hand. And at the 3-minute mark, he does call. Oh, these are yours now. And he shows a 9-7. How did he have a 7? Oh, he tanked for 3 minutes with a 7. I guess that means it's a good bluff. And my reward for a good bluff is I get to buy back in for another $3,000. For poker gear that doesn't have cartoon donkeys, check out razorclothing.com. I straddle 10 under the gun and the player on my left straddles to 20. Albert raises to $75. Optimist Prime decides to call. I've got Queen 9 suited, I'm gonna call. And the player on my left calls. We're going 4 ways to the flop, $300 pot. Flop is 9-8-8, 2 spades and 1 club. So I flop top pair, I've got a backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw. We check it all the way around and the turn is the 7 of diamonds. This is kind of a scary board. I don't really want to build a big pot. Optimist bets $75. I'm okay calling that. I call 75. Player on my left folds, and Albert, the pre-flop raiser, folds. And the river's the 5 of clubs. That puts a 4-card straight on the board. This board has just gotten worse and worse for my 1-pair hand. So many hands are stronger than mine. And he bets $175. Now 9 out of 10 times, I would just fold this hand. I don't beat anything other than a bluff, and there just aren't very many bluffs out there. But the problem I have is the same problem you have at home. I don't like making mistakes and I don't like being wrong, which means I'm gonna think about this $175 bet for a way too long. I end up tanking on this for quite a while before I called. And he shows ace-10 for a missed straight draw. This hand starts out 5-5-10. We've got a limp under the gun by Todd. And Optimist Prime makes it 50 to go. I look down at ace-jack offsuit. I decide I'm going to 3-bet this hand, and if you don't know why, then you probably need a poker coach. Todd's going to fold. I'm going to get heads up with Optimist. We're going to the flop. I have ace-jack offsuit. The flop is jack 7-5 with the jack 5 of clubs. So I flop top pair, top kicker. Optimist checks to me. I'm going to c-bet this. I bet 150. Pot's 280. I think it's a good sized bet. And Optimist is going to call. The turn is the 6 of clubs, which is kind of a scary card. It brings in the flush and it also makes some gut shots get there and also some 2 pairs. And the river's the 6 of diamonds. This doesn't make it any easier. But Optimist checks to me. Now we've seen how optimistic he is value betting pocket 8s on a 9-9 jack board. I think if he had a better hand than ace jack, he would have bet at some point. I'm gonna make a value bet of 4-10 and he snap calls with ace queen high.
Optimus Prime.
Jamin Burton paid a visit to us this night. He decided not to play in our game, but his buddy Rain Delay did, and he bought in for $20,000. That's 10K in plaques, and each of those black stacks is 2K. This game is about to get interesting. I put the $40 triple straddle on, and the player next to me puts the $80 straddle on. We've got one limper for $80. It gets over to Optimist Prime, and he raises to $550. Sweet baby Jesus, I have pocket kings. Okay, stay calm. It's just pocket kings. We're gonna have to raise. Okay, what's the right raise size when your opponent just bet $550 pre-flop and you've got $3,000 in your stack? $1,500 would be half my stack. If I make it $1,000, that looks weird. I guess I'm just gonna go all in for $3,000. All right, I'm all in for $3,000. It's back over to Optimus Prime. We don't get snapped off, but he doesn't fold right away either, so I guess he has some sort of hand. I mean, he did make it $550. He's gonna ask for a count. Ends up, we have him covered. He has about $2,600. Maybe he feels like he's in the exact same spot I was earlier with Ace Queen, where he feels like he ran into the top of my range. But he calls, We're playing a $5,000 pot with pocket kings. Jack high flop. Turn is a 9. River's a 5. He shows queen jack of clubs. He backdoored a flush. He called off $2,600 with queen jack suited and got rewarded. Are you kidding me? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need to borrow that. With the recent losses piling on, I really wanted to stick to my 6K buy-in that I brought for this session. But when people are calling off $2,600 pre-flop with queen jack, it's really hard to stay out of this game. So I decided to get back in for 5K. With the $10 and $20 straddles on, Optimist Prime raises to 50. I decide on the button with most of the players out of the hand already. I'm just gonna call. I also don't want to 3-bet and get blown off my 6-7 suited. I just call and everybody else folds, and we're gonna go heads up to the flop. 6-7 of diamonds. The flop is 9-6 deuce with a 9-6 of hearts and the deuce of clubs. Optimist bets $50, and I decided I didn't really want to call down 3 streets with a 6 in this spot. And this is where I do the Wes play where I raise it up to $200. He quickly calls. Guess he's got a little something. The turn is a 7. Well, I'm no longer semi-bluffing. When he checks to me, I will be value betting this 7. I turn 2 pair. He checks and I act like I'm thinking about it, like maybe I got caught on the flop. On the turn, I'm gonna go ahead and bet. I bet 370. He calls 370. And the river's the king of hearts. So it puts the flush out there and it's an overcard. This card might kill some of my action. I think I can think of a million other better cards to see on the river. And when he checks to me, I'm gonna bet kind of small just to get called by a 1-pair hand. So on this king river, I bet $425. I think it's a good bet size. I think he'll call with sometimes his overpairs, his jacks, his 10s. Maybe he has a hand like queen 9, but he's raising to $2,500? $2,500? What could he possibly have? Now, if you're thinking he could have a flush, you idiot, the thing is, what can I possibly have? If you make a flush on this river, how can you expect someone to call $2,500 when they've only bet $425? If he had a set of kings on the river, he wouldn't bet this much because he'd be worried about the flush. I spent this entire time trying to figure out what hand he could possibly have that would make this raise. And we've been watching this guy play for hours now. We haven't seen him actually bet this much and have a hand yet. But I do know it's possible and it's likely, and in the end, eventually, he's gonna have a hand. I can't just assume every time he's bluffing or overvaluing a hand. So I spent a ton of time tanking and thinking about what to do on this river. In the end, I just couldn't think of a hand that made sense to make such a big bet with, so I called. And he shows ace-8 of hearts for the nut flush. I spent the next 10 minutes at the table thinking about this hand, thinking about whether this was just a river that I had to call. I was still so confused about how he could go for such a big sizing. And then it finally hit me. I remembered that I raised on the flop. I didn't just call. He actually probably thought I had a flush draw. And by the river, he thought he was looking at flush over flush scenario. And I'll tell you what, that never crossed my mind during the hand that he could think I had a worse flush. I think that's the mistake I made that led to my call. I didn't realize what my hand looked like to him. In poker, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to sometimes call and be wrong, and it's not even a mistake. I think that one was a mistake. But I just had to clear my head and move on. So onto this hand, there was a raise to $45. Albert calls the 45. Now the small blind is called. So round to Optimist Prime to decide what to do. And I look down at 2 queens after all this action. I'm definitely going to be 3-betting this hand. Question is, what's the right size? I decided to make it 235. Think it's a good size. Want to make it a little bit meaty. We don't want everyone to call. Well, it looks like so far no one's going to call. And unfortunately, I take it down pre-flop, which was not what I was going for. I wish I could have those queens back. I'm on the button this hand. Todd raises to $65 over the $10 under the gun straddle. That's a fairly large sizing. I would have to guess he has a hand that he doesn't like that much, like maybe pocket jacks. And now it's over to Rain Delay, who's gonna make it $230. He's gonna put Todd to the test. Oh, I have queens again. I guess I am gonna get a chance to redo this. So we've got a raise and a re-raise, and I'm on the button with pocket queens. I don't really feel like this is a spot where I just wanna raise it big and take it down. I wanna get some action from the 3-better. He's likely to have a range of pairs that are worse than queens and ace king. So I make it $575 to go. That's gonna be $345 over to him, assuming Todd doesn't come over with a bigger raise. I don't think Todd would raise quite that much with a huge hand. So now we're over to Rain Delay. Now I haven't played with him before, but anyone who sits down with a $20,000 stack, I would assume they're a capable player. So far today, I've mostly seen him try to bluff, and the players in my game just kept calling him down. But in this spot, he's gonna make a re-raise to $1,420. I'm sitting on a stack of $3,300, so it's shovel fold at this point, and I'm not folding to this guy. I get it all in, and he snap calls. I'm assuming he just already knew what he was gonna do. And there's no way I'm gonna win this hand. The flop is ace, king, 5, all hearts. The turn is an ace, and the river's a jack. I can't beat any hand, and he shows pocket kings. He had me the entire way. What a cooler. I think in this spot, pocket jacks for me would be a fold, and ace, king, and queens plus would be a call or a shove. This is just an unfortunate spot, and he's gonna pick up $3,300 with his pocket kings. Man, what a brutal session. Lost $11,000 today. Got unlucky in some spots, bluffed off in some spots, called off in some spots, and overall, just not a good night. Lost $11,000 last week and lost 10. The bankroll is still in good shape. I might have to slow down if I keep losing, but right now I think I'm fine. Gonna see you guys next time in the same game. Hopefully I run good.